Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby.
Hello and welcome to Movies vs. Capitalism, an anti-capitalist movie podcast. I'm Frank.
And I'm Rivka.
And Rivka, welcome back. Well, welcome back to both of us. We've both been out for a minute, but you especially, welcome back. It's so good to see you.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just telling you before we started recording how surreal it feels to like sit down having showered and put on a little makeup and looking in, like having a reflection back. It was a surreal. I was like, oh my God, so much has happened since.
And to be clear, what is happening, in case this is maybe, I don't know, the first episode you've ever listened to of this podcast, we just are coming back from a about 5-week hiatus because Rivka just had a baby and is a new mother. Congratulations.
Crazy. Thank you so much. It's truly everything they say and all the things they don't. It's just been like a world of, and Frank's been over, visited, so Frank's heard the whole tale, and I shan't be doing that, don't worry here, but like I'm sure it will completely, I know it will because it already has, change my perspective on every film I see, including like everything I see. Every single thing I see is totally through a new lens, which is absolutely incredible and wild. And I've never felt more alive and also like a mammal, like in my body, you know?
Yes.
It's really
and now you get to start sentences with as a parent,
as a parent,
as a mother,
as a mother,
as a mom,
yeah,
as a mother. But can we share little baby's name with the MVC fam?
Absolutely. We have little baby Eddie, my little baby Eddie. Little baby Eddie. Still, you know, I've shared this with you. I don't know. I don't think this is like a controversial hot take, but I was like, it very much feels like Love is Blind. Like I know this soul. I've been like we've been together for 9 months. Just like I know everything about this human so deeply. And then when they pop out and you see them, it's just like this. You're like, who the fuck are, like, I'm sure he feels the same way about me. It was like, who the fuck are you? Where did you come from? He smiled a lot today, which was like great because there was a lot of like horrified looks the other day, which it's gotta be just so fucking terrifying.
It's gotta be a trip. Yeah. Just being
it's
like, holy shit,
trip.
This is the world. Oh my God.
That is how the vibe I'm getting from him was like, you know, some people are like, my child picked me. You know, they like sat up, they saw and they were like, those souls. Like I'm getting the vibe that it was very like, I'll try it. Like, give me a hit. And they're like, I don't know. Last time you did Life, it was like, no, I'm good. Give it to me. And then just like, here we are.
When I got to meet Eddie over the weekend, was holding him for a little bit, and he's so small and he's so precious. But like, you're right, like the faces that he's pulling, just like, it's like watching someone realize every few moments that they're alive for the first time, and just like like the shock coming over them.
Yeah, it's wild. But also just watching him process every emotion and then be able to let it go. Like it flows through the body and then it's gone. It's like so many lessons on just how to move through life. He's my little guru. And also we chose not to share photos like online or anything, but just for a visual, my guy popped out with a full head of hair and looks like he just like stopped at a Brooklyn barbershop on the way out. Like he's a total it's amazing.
His scalp pattern does look very like Brooklyn fade for sure.
Gotta fade yeah. And it only continues to like look. I'm like, wow.
Is he sneaking out to the barber when we're not looking?
Yeah. So it's been amazing. But I was like, Frank, you know, I think I actually have a lot of time to watch movies, turns out, because New York State's one of the few, I think one of 7 that you can apply for. You can get paid family leave, actually. So paternal or maternal, which is incredible, but also like it should be longer. But as a freelancer, for any freelancers listening, if you get an LLC, if you want details about this, please reach out to me because it saved me. I had no idea. But as a freelancer, you can, as an LLC, if you decide to do that, get insurance that will cover your ass and let you take maternity and disability.
That's right.
For the woman. So, and like, yeah, like again, New York, I think LA, there's a few states, like 7 or something. So take advantage I had no idea. No one, other things that no one talks about. And our dear friend Beth and Peter had done it and it saved me. It's amazing.
Yeah, that was huge. I remember when they found that out.
Civilized places do this just for everyone for a year.
Yeah, in the United States, you still have to jump through you have to do all of the legwork of, like you said, incorporating, starting a business, applying which should just be like automatic. But
and of course,
there are
ways.
Not,
it's not really enough to be like it's not meeting the standards of 2025, but it's a good amount. And so any parent should take advantage of that because it's huge.
Well, I'm so glad that you're back, that we're both back. I had been missing this quite a bit, getting to chat with you about movies. Right here at the top, we should also make another little announcement, which is we're going to be reducing the release cadence of this podcast. So since we started it a little over 2 years ago, like two years and change, we've been putting out an episode a week. And you know what? That was probably a mistake right from the top. That was probably a mistake. I think pretty quickly we realized,
capitalism got us. We said, we got to do it hard. We got to produce. We got to let the people know, because I'm sure everyone's like, well, I know there are people who do listen weekly, which is great. But I think we were excited. And also we felt the need to keep up with, to make something happen.
Yeah, to make something happen. And we were also in a totally different, time in our lives 2 years ago. We were both less busy. One of us did not have a child, there was just less going on. Yeah, but we've been talking about it, and we've decided to now release an episode every other week. So it'll be one free episode, one paid episode for our paid subscribers. Just want to make sure that anyone that's supporting this show is gonna, get those episodes at least once a month. And yeah, it's just, the two of us have gotten much busier in the last couple years, especially recently. And there have been times here and there where I don't know how you feel, Riv, but I'm like rushing to finish a movie and rushing to write barf out my notes onto. I
know what you're talking about. I always watch movies at the gym.
That's right. That's right. Famously watching ants, ants while on the treadmill.
Yeah.
Or just not getting a chance to fully prepare for a recording, not do as much research as I had wanted to, and I'm not saying that our episodes have majorly suffered, but I think it would be. I think it would be beneficial to both your and I's lives and the production quality of this show for us to just take a step back and still be doing this, but at the rate that we should have been doing it from the beginning, to be quite honest.
1,000%.
One movie a week plus recording, plus notes, plus research, plus guest booking, plus everything. It's a lot on top of, full-time jobs, other extracurricular commitments, all the other stuff. So
totally. So that's exciting for all involved. And
for John and for John, the third member of the MVC team, who now also doesn't have to edit a full episode every week. So,
well, let's get to our episode this week. But before we do, we just wanted to mention, because what a week to get back into record. We were like, we'll do a topical, and then I feel like over this weekend, it was just many things popping off, lots of activism, lots of fascism, lots of global terror, all the things. But we just thought we should mention, at least even just to contextualize this episode for when we
that's why we do these topical conversations here at the top, is to sort of mak in time when we are what is happening. As I'm sure a lot of listeners of this podcast know, there have been massive protests erupting all over Los Angeles in protest of ICE raids, illegal ICE raids, and detentions and deportations. Basically, snatching undocumented folks just off the street and just throwing them into unmarked cars and ripping them away from their families and their communities. And it's been really like so many so many terrible moments of like incredible crisis. The one heartening thing that comes out of it is watching the response from like actual, like the people on the street, you know, regular working class people, the LA community just showing up en masse to physically stop ICE doing what they're setting out to do.
And the organization, the organizers, and to watch these activists who've been doing this work. Not just, you know, there's the importance of showing up when the moment happens, but like the organization that's been happening in those communities for a long time now, because we know that Trump has escalated, obviously, the ICE raids. But, you know, this has been happening for a very long time. Like ICE has been coming and detaining people. So, and LA is not new to this, but
and all over the country, too.
All over, yes. And the infrastructure in these communities. I was listening to an organizer, apologies, I don't have their name in front of me, but on Democracy Now! This morning, and just hearing about how these, particularly in these communities, the thought and the process that goes through being prepared for like allowing, you know, that it's not just civil unrest for civil unrest or protesting for protesting. It's allowing for, let's say, those who are being targeted at a Home Depot or the workers to get home and make moves so that people can literally be protected and escape, like you said, escape the fascist state at this point. And that takes a lot of organization. It's pretty inspiring to witness.
Yeah.
And something that I'm like, oh yeah, we know that Trump's talking about this, not, you know, that this is going to spread throughout the country in terms of his response and his desire to put military in different states. So it did have me thinking about like finding those groups and being, you know, you see the signs, you see this, but like, how can I really be prepared and ready and listen to people who've been doing the work? No one needs to reinvent the wheel. Yeah,
definitely. And there are a lot of incredible organizations in LA that have been doing this work basically since the pandemic and have just like not lost their infrastructure. So they're all primed and ready to go for when crises like this happen. So if you are in LA, or if you're not LA and you want to get involved or you want to support these protest efforts, bail funds, help the families of, you know, undocumented folks who have been detained. I know that Mutual Aid LA is a great resource. If you just Google Mutual Aid LA, that's sort of like a consortium of many, many, many different organizations, GoFundMes, bail funds, etc. So that's a great place to start. Also, this is, like you're saying, Riv, this is happening all over. This has been happening in New York City as well, but not with as much militarization from ICE. But I do know that people like protesters, activists have been showing up outside of, I think, City Hall, 26 Federal Plaza, during the day and in the evening, because it's during immigration appointments and immigration court dates that a lot of these undocumented folks are getting fucking kidnapped because ICE knows that they're going to be there. And, you know, even though they legally have to be there, whatever. So I know Washington Square Park Mutual Aid is doing a lot of organizing around that. You can find them on Instagram. That's Washington Square Park Mutual Aid. I'm definitely going to try to go in the next few days, just to be like a body. And literally, it's just like they need people they just need bodies to just get between ICE and the people they're trying to detain. And that sometimes that is all it takes to just get someone safely from the courthouse, from one place and to another without getting fucking kidnapped. So it's very scary, but it's, like I said, it's been really, really inspiring to see the way that regular people are just like absolutely ready to fight back.
Yeah. Speaking of fighting back, there was also, I've been tracking the flotilla, the Freedom Flotilla, the Madeleine.
Oh, yeah.
Carrying activists, including Greta Thunberg and other activists. No Americans on those ships, but from
I don't believe so.
Brazil, France, Germany. And then because I'm on this, you know, I'm on a crazy feeding schedule. It was like the last thing I looked at. Like I look at my phone, but like at like weirder hours than usual. It'll be like 3 a.m. I'm up breastfeeding. And that's when I was like, fuck. The IDF surrounded their boat and kidnapped all of the activists. And it was live streamed because they were live streaming it. Yeah, it was such a disappointing but inevitable thing to see. I think they were clearly really organized and prepared for that to happen because they all had videos ready to give a call to action for people to reach out to their governments to put pressure on them to be freed. Yeah, I mean, the hope is right that there's going to be 20, 30, 40 more flotillas, that this will just be the first of many, would be the dream scenario.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they expected
dream
this.
Scenario, silly thing to say, but you know.
Yeah, I know what you mean. No, I mean, they obviously expected this, and it's a very smart tactic, you know, to basically to force the Israeli government to just stop activists and aid from feeding this starving population. You know, it's like, it's put like, there's no two ways around this one. Like, these are just activists coming with baby food and medicine. And if the Israeli government is going to stop that, it's going to. And the fact that there are so many international activists. So now we have other governments involved. As you mentioned, Greta Thunberg is on there, she's got a massive following. So it's just like bringing more eyes onto what is happening. And
remarkable to see how the media has bent over backwards. Like, fascinating. Like, to just try and say, defile her, really. Like, the headlines, I don't have them in front of me, but just basically her stupid pet project, how far she's gone, what a disappointment. I mean, it's mind-boggling how
it's really not, though. It's really not.
No, it's not. It's not. But I guess just like how, you're right. It's not. It's just how fucking I can't wrap my head around where we're at today. I think it's just like, that's where it kind of comes to. It's like, full stop. I just still can't wrap my head around where we're at.
I know. Yeah. It's just
Tommy was just finishing 6 Feet Under. You remember that series? I just caught the last episode, but she's just like driving through. It's like the last episode where everyone's, because the whole theme is death, spoilers. Mm-hmm. But like, she's in the car listening to like, what's that song? And like everyone in the season, they show how they die. The worst stage makeup I've ever seen, I have to say. It was especially like, I know that it's like an amazing TV show, one of the best, but like when you come in just at the end and you see that makeup, you're like, what the fuck was going on in 2006? But everyone's dying, and it was just like, and they're like dying in 2025, 2085. You're just like, you have no fucking idea.
Yeah.
You have no fucking idea where you're headed.
I mean, it should have been inevitable for anyone paying attention, you know, that like, Greta came on the scene as like this precocious child, literally a child, and, you know, wanting to, as a climate activist, and everyone understands and everyone agrees, even a lot of the ruling class and their media apparati agree, like, yeah, climate change is bad and we should want to fight that. But as soon as she started linking climate change to capitalism, to imperialism, to like, you know, U.S. hegemony, the imperial core, everyone's like, whoa. We liked shit when you were a cute kid, but now you're like, now you understand.
You're a terrorist.
Yeah. So unsurprising. I have no idea where it goes next from here.
Well, we talk about a movie today that's all about predicting the future. So
shit, that's right. Wow, great segue, Riv.
Thank you.
Haven't missed a step.
Thank you.
Yes, a really wonderful conversation coming up with my work colleague Prem Thakker. So we're going to get to that in a second. But before we do, we still got to do this. We still got to do our plugs. Mm-hmm. This isn't going to stop. Just want to remind our audience that we do not sell ads on this show. We rely on community support to keep this show going, to fund the show, to pay the bills, because there are production costs involved with not a lot, but there are. So if you want to do that, you can subscribe to our Patreon account.
That's right. That's just $5 a month. And for $5 a month, you get access to all our new bonus episodes. Just going to be like 50% of our programming from here on out, and our entire back catalog of episodes. And thank you we had a pretty good handful of new subscribers in the past month. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.
Yeah, our Patreon link is in the episode description in your podcast player or at mvcpod.com.
Also, if you want to help us out for free, you can rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on your podcast player so you don't miss new episodes, and it helps the algorithm, blah, blah, blah. Engagement.
Also, a reminder that we donate our ad space. So if you're part of a leftist or progressive organization and you would like to run an ad on this program, please email us at moviesvscapitalism@gmail.com.
That's right. And we actually have a new ad coming up momentarily for a really wonderful organization. This is a pre-ad for the ad you're about to hear.
We do ads for ads on Movies versus Capitalism.
We do. All right. But let's get to that ad and then get to our conversation. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with Prem Thakker talking about Minority Report. What's up, everyone? I've got a fantastic mutual aid organization I want to tell you about. Mutual Aid Distribution Richmond, Virginia. MADRVA is a collective which bloomed during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, distributing food, PPE, hygiene products, and other necessities straight to the homes of community members. The collective has since grown and evolved. They're now offering mini grants and political education to their community and partner with other leftist and grassroots organizations across the city to create an intricate web of care for Richmond City. MADRVA's newest project is the Meadowbridge Community Market, a free COVID-conscious grocery store combating food apartheid in Richmond's North Side. Through the store, MADRVA helps to feed roughly 200 families every Saturday. To help them purchase the building that they run the market out of, you can visit givebutter.com/buymcm. That's givebutter.com/buymcm. You can also follow them and check out their past work on Instagram at @MAD_RVA. Today we are so thrilled to be joined by Prem Thakker. Prem is a colleague of mine at Zeteo, an independent news organization that we both work at, where Prem is the political correspondent and also the Frank Capello fan club vice president. Interesting. Wow. I did not write this bio. Prem,
vice president. I didn't want to be presumptuous.
I was going to ask, who's president?
Yeah, I think because it's just such a large group and because I feel like I'm staking my claim maybe prematurely, I didn't want to presume to be head of any, partners, loved ones, pets.
That's fair.
But traditionally, I do feel vice president is more of the fan in the fan club. So
that's true.
I just took it as a more loving, the vice president is always the one who's that's the real president.
That's right. Because I could be doing anything else. Presidency, it's exactly. I'm the president. You'll hold on to that title regardless. But vice presidency, you're putting in the time and the effort to earn that title and to maintain it. I'm not looking for elevation. I'm just looking for the love of the game, which is Frank Capello.
Hence doing the podcast.
That's exactly right.
And I likewise am a big Prem Thakker fan. As I mentioned, we work together. I'm very excited that you are here. We get to talk movies. But before we do, Prem, I know a little bit about you. I know that you grew up in the Midwest and went to Columbia School of Journalism. But what got you into this work? And I feel like I feel like our audience probably knows you and your work, especially over the last year and a half since the beginning of the genocide in Gaza. You've been probably one of the best reporters on Western American reporters on what's been happening over the last year and a half. But how did you get from were you Michigan or Minnesota?
North Dakota.
Wow.
That's right. North Dakota. How did you get from there to here? I'm curious.
Yeah. So I grew up in North Dakota. Love that place dearly. Love the Midwest. Upon, graduating high school, I got the chance to go to Columbia for college, where I studied history. And I think the way I put it is growing up in North Dakota and then getting to go to a place vastly different than it, I think made both experiences so much more impactful for me. I think I felt really lucky for the things I got to get out of North Dakota. I still have a deep connection to it. And I felt similarly upon going to school in New York, where I also felt like I just benefited from getting to meet so many cool people and to meet so many cool teachers that gave me a chance academically, socially, and even just sort of gave me a chance to learn a lot more about the world. I think North Dakota gave me so much. And I think getting to go to New York made me realize how much it gave me, but also how that was just a small part of a very large world. And so, yeah, I just feel so thankful for that contrast. And I think I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I got to college. I only switched to studying history, I think, my sophomore year. And upon switching to study history and focusing on that, I loved it. Had amazing professors, lots of friends who, empower me and encourage me to study history. And I thought, okay, I'll maybe be a lawyer, maybe be a journalist, something in the sphere. And it was, I think, junior going into senior year that I more seriously considered journalism. And I think a big part of that was because of getting to grow up in one place and getting to go to school in another. I think I felt that I evolved and changed and sharpened both my worldviews, but also my curiosity, I think, a lot in that transition. And I think I felt really lucky to have that. And I felt so just fortunate to get the chance to get a taste of both those atmospheres and to learn from both of them, and to have people who were generous enough to take me as I was and as I am in both places. And I felt, man, that's really nice. I feel like that's an enrichment that is such a treat to have. And if I could share that with other people in some way, that'd be really nice. And I think that, coupled with my studying of history and sort of, learned outrage at so much of the world from studying history, I think combined in such a way where it's like, man, I really like to write. I really like to learn about these things. And on one hand, learning about things can get you frustrated, but also like the chance to learn those things and to shape your worldview in a new way is also a gift. And so if I could share that with other people, that would be very, very nice. So getting into senior year, and then upon graduating is when I think I got more and more into journalism. And, more people after graduating school took chances on me to give me a shot at journalism. And my philosophy when I was deciding between becoming a journalist or pursuing law or something along those lines was just, I'm going to try whatever I can try first. And if it likes me and if I like it, that's great. And we'll just see, what happens. I was fortunate to be in a position to have the chance to try that. And so got my first journalism job, 4 or 5 months after graduating, like proper full-time job, I should say, at the New Republic, which was, so exciting. That moved me to DC, was there for a little while, loved it, loved my colleagues, then went to The Intercept. Same experience where it was, again, such an amazing gift to get to work at a place that I admired so much, learned a lot, met amazing people, and then, ended up with Frank at Zeteo. So it was kind of a generative sort of process, but one that was always kind of driven by the idea that, man, I just feel so lucky to be shaped and refined and evolving by so many people. And if I could share that and help people remember how awesome that can be, and couple that with also sort of some sort of conviction towards making things a little better, that would be, so nice. And so I'm fortunate to be in a place that really allows us to do that at Zeteo.
But truthfully, all roads really just led you here today to be able to talk about
the ultimate gift.
Minority Report is what you're...
Well, it's funny, of course we'll get into questions about fate and determinism and how your choices can or cannot lead you to certain places. But it really does feel like, whether in the deterministic sense or a sense of having agency, every single road, to your point, has led to here. And what better gift than that? Yeah.
So let's do it. Let's get into talking about Minority Report, which you chose for us to watch, which Frank will tell you, I was so thrilled. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting for someone to pick Minority Report.
I didn't know you've been waiting for Minority Report.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll talk about it, but I didn't know why.
I was also stoked. I hadn't seen it in a long time. So I hadn't
seen it in a long time either. But I do remember it being like a childhood favorite, and I couldn't figure out why. It's odd.
Because you were a dark, weird child.
So this film came out in 2002, directed by Steven Spielberg, loosely based on a Philip K. Dick's 1956 novella, The Minority Report, starring Tom Cruise, Colin Farrell, Samantha Morton, and Max von Sydow. This movie was made for $102 million, and at the box office, it brought back home around $358.4 million.
Damn.
Short synopsis for anyone who hasn't seen this in a minute. In the year 2054, a specialized police unit called Pre-Crime apprehends criminals before they commit their crimes using visions from 3 psychic beings known as precogs. Chief John Anderton, played by Tom Cruise, is a firm believer in the system, and he finds himself accused of a future murder and goes on the run to uncover the truth and prove his innocence, only to discover a deeper conspiracy that questions the very foundation of free will and justice.
So, Prem, a little bit of historical context for when this film is released. Released on June 22nd, 2002. So this is, what is that? Less than a year since 9/11. George W. Bush is the president, obviously. And this movie is very much released in the wake of 9/11, the surveillance state, everything that was happening at that time. The only other film we had covered during this year, or from this year, was John Q, which was our episode another banger with Nina Turner. So if you haven't heard that episode, go back and check it out. Other things happening in 2002. In March, Halle Berry becomes the first Black actress to win the Oscar for Best Actress. Jimmy Carter wins the Nobel Peace Prize. And a 72-year-old Buzz Aldrin punches a moon landing conspiracy theorist in the face. What?
I didn't know that happened either, but like it wasn't even niche because it was on the like history.com things that happened in 2002. I just had to add it because I
no, that's important.
Delightful.
Very delightful. I was in middle school, so I was not keeping tabs on what was going on with Buzz Aldrin. And in October, Congress passes the Iraq resolution, which authorizes the Iraq War. So very much in the beginning of the post 9/11 era. And this movie feels like maybe one of the first movies of the post 9/11 era, but we'll get into it. So, Prem, the first question we like to ask our guest is, why did you choose this movie to talk about on this podcast?
I actually hadn't seen this movie before. And
oh damn. Okay.
Yeah. It was
very cool.
Among, a good amount of movies on the list or suggested list that I thought were pretty great. And it was just coincidentally just one that I had been wanting to watch. And I think just like reading the synopsis, I thought, there was just so many elements of it that I thought could be interesting. And of course, upon watching it, I just, all the themes from crime and policing to justice to sociology and metaphysics to like AI and techno-capitalism. I mean, there was just so many elements of it that didn't feel like a hodgepodge actually at all. And also felt like unsurprisingly disturbingly in some respects pertinent to now. And I love a good sort of like futuristic movie. Love Tom Cruise, love Colin Farrell. So it's like, yeah, let's get it on. Rivka, I'm wondering why you were so stoked about the fact that I picked it.
I think because of all the things you just said, just like in memory being like, this has got to apply. Like this is going to be a great conversation through the lens of politics and capitalism.
Yeah.
And also being like curious as to why there was such an excitement from my like teen, preteen, like middle school aged. I just remember this, like, it wasn't The Matrix for me. I did watch The Matrix, but I loved this movie and like the aesthetics of it, and rewatching it, it clicked. Like, I just think I was surprised to find that there was like a humor and like a potential satire in it that I didn't, that makes sense, that I think was enjoyable at the time, makes it, I think, a great movie. And also like, I was surprised to re-find that it was actually like quite bouncy is like the word I want to give it at times, and like almost laughing at itself with some of these darker themes. And I just
Spielberg.
Yeah, it was very Spielberg. And I told Frank, I was like, I forgot it was Spielberg until the end. And I was like, well, who made this lovely flick? What a great movie. I was like, oh, of course it's Steven Spielberg. That makes sense. So I was delighted. And then also equally like talking about it now, this 2002 film from 2025 will be fascinating. And the cars, some of the best sci-fi cars I've ever seen.
Great sci-fi car shit. It's amazing watching this now, like as part of like Spielberg's body of work, because it is on one hand like very different from a lot of the stuff that he made, but also very much has his fingerprints on it. And I think like that bounciness that you're alluding to is yeah, that sort of that jubilance and wonder that Spielberg is able to bring to most of his work. Like you could imagine a version of this movie directed by David Fincher that is also very, very good, but just so gritty and dark, and has none of the humor, has none of the levity, has none of the roller coaster feel that Spielberg is able to bring, especially to his more like actiony type of fare. And yeah, it's so loaded with ideas, and it's so loaded with these different concepts and this vision of the future. And apparently Spielberg did massive amounts of research into the future and was speaking with a bunch of like techno-futurists and inventors and scientists, and people just being like, yo, what are the things that could be in the, like, what are we looking towards? Like, what will the common technologies be? How will surveillance evolve? How will transportation evolve? All of these things. So it was like, they like constructed like an 80-page Bible of just future shit, which was like a jumping off point for actually building out the world, and all of that shows. And then underneath it, you have this incredible story we will talk about, of like free will versus determinism, which is the primary theme of this movie. And then also at the same time, yeah, if I get Tom Cruise jumping off of future cars, going down to the side of a building and getting his eyes plucked out, and it's great. It's just like it's great shit, top to bottom.
I remember there was even one point where it could have totally just been projection, but there was an action scene that like the soundtrack beneath it was so Mission Impossible-esque. I was like, all right, Mission
Impossible. And then I was like, I turned to my partner. I was like, I feel like Robin Williams could be in this world, like based on the sound. Like parts of it felt very like it could be Hook. Like it was just like, so I'm like, this is Bubble. This is like, we're having fun. And which actually like made me be able to made some of the politics stand out in a way that like were useful, because it kind of juxtaposed the tone versus like if you said, Frank, it was kind of it was so self-serious, sometimes you could just take it so literally that I just felt like some of the themes of, I was just able to kind of step back and think about how fucking ridiculous some of these elements of capitalism are, how like how we are existing in them currently and how ridiculous it is. So I appreciated that.
I was thinking about that because in certain aspects of the movie, I mean, there's this big element about the infallibility of the system, the perfection of the system, like this idea that like for 6 years, this system has gone quite well for its like purported purpose. And I contrasted that with, for instance, now when you think of all these, AI entrepreneurs that I think you see more and more on Twitter, for example, just like launching their projects. Like, I don't know if you saw, either of you, this week, there was this young entrepreneur who launched this app called Cluely.
What's Cluely?
Oh gosh, I didn't look too much into it, but the ad was essentially like this AI support system that you wear kind of through, I forget if it was glasses or just like an implant. I think the ultimate goal in the replies this guy was saying was like an implant, where the example was this guy was on a date with a woman, and he was younger than she was by a decent amount. I think even below the drinking age. And the idea was he would just kind of coast through the date by this AI support bot helping him have the exact right answers to this, whatever this girl was saying.
Damn.
Oh my God.
And it like the sort of the climax of the ad is, her finding out that he's, below the age of 21. So that's why he didn't order alcohol on the date, or he tried to order alcohol, and then the person carded his ID, and he's like, hey, this ID doesn't work. So the climax. Oh yeah, I know. But the climax of the ad is her saying, "What the heck? Like, you're too young for me." And the AI support bot last second has a buzzer beater that tells him exactly what to say to save the date. And the whole divergence of that is just to say that while I was watching this movie, like it felt like, of course, we get to the point where we understand that this system is flawed, that there's like a lot of complications to it, but generally speaking, it presents this project that like ultimately like is and like has this sense in the public eye, like being infallible. But like now, like so much of the techno-capitalism that we see, like there is this sense in the public that like it is absurd and like stupid or like kind of useless or like yeah, maybe it works, but like it probably doesn't work that well. Like, but it's almost like accepted or like nevertheless like just dismissed because like the thing is cool.
Yeah.
And I feel like that sense like wasn't apparent in this depiction. But like I think to your point, like those moments of bounciness or absurdity, or like the moments where like, you know, he'd be walking into a store and like the Gap TV ads would say, "Hello, Mr. Anderton," like just like this silly, insane concept, like I think reminded me that no, like that element is still there, that so much of this is absurd and indeed, of course, more importantly, fallible. But I just like thought of that because nowadays it feels so prominent to first have all these projects shoved down our throat, but then to be just like, even people who are proponents still like not fully think of them as these sort of like perfect sort of models of unlocking the future as much as it just be like a cool thing or just something that could be cool someday. You know, does that kind of make sense?
Or yeah, no, in total sense. Yeah.
I just saw a headline a few weeks ago that was like, it's like X% of ChatGPT's answers are incorrect. Like literally, that was it. It was just like this thing that has been touted as the receptacle for all human knowledge is like shitting out incorrect information. So like, why are we boiling the planet for this thing? If this thing can't even give us the correct information, what is the point of it?
Right. And the focus being like this really like so far not super smart thing is actually like we should be scared of it taking over and being so smart that it takes over and controls us and not to your point, like we shouldn't be scared of like the carbon footprint, the fact that like our planet is being destroyed for it. That's not what you should be scared of. You have all of these like tech AI capitalist bros being like, be so scared because I think I saw one clip that was like by 2027, like they will be so smart that it's like gonna take over all of this, to your point, where I think it's like the scary thing is planet being destroyed so that we can get into a mall and be like, hey Riv, look, which is not far from kind of our experience on like exactly our experience on social media, or even when you Google something and you're like, I didn't ask for your AI response and now I'm just being given it, you know.
100%.
Yeah.
It is kind of silly and scary, but the scary part is not what we're seeing.
Those aspects of the movie, like the retinal scanning for everything, the customized advertisements in the mall, those to me rang scarier than the concept of the pre-crime division, because the pre-crime division is like predicated on psychics effectively.
Yeah.
So there's part of you
for some reason only going after like wealthy white people for the most part.
Yeah. So like there's like a level of removal where you're like, well, I don't think we have psychics in a like a vat of milk yet. So like I'm not super worried yet, but like the customized ads and retinal scans, you can 100% imagine that within our lifetimes. The
fucking spiders. I mean, yeah, we're seeing that for sure. It was like those spiders were a living nightmare. And like, so even in those small moments, you're right, where like the mother was begging the police, like, you're terrifying my children. Those elements were just like, yeah, we're there for sure.
It is interesting to the last point, Rivka, like that depiction of like that also like that housing sort of development like didn't necessarily seem like the nicest of conditions either. Like it was interesting like when there were depictions of like relative squalor versus like relative comfort. And Frank, what you were saying just now, like of what from the movie seemed to like resonate or like alarm you more, just given the removal or pertinence or like relatability, like that feels so much like the Black Mirror like problem and evolution, where it's like initially when the show came out, there was just every episode you're like, oh my gosh, because there was like, I think the right balance of like removal, but also like absurdity, where like it felt like that was somewhat down the road, or like not necessarily something that's like sort of discernible in the current state of like humanity, whatever, 6-7 years ago, 5, whatever the first season came out. But now it's at the point where it's like, what more can you do, because of how many aspects that they're trying to think of are like not that far from where we are. And I feel like it's interesting that this movie, we're kind of in the halfway point between 2002 and 2054. And I feel like that movie, despite of course being 20 years ago, like it seemed to like pair those elements together.
Definitely.
In a way that I think helped both seem even more compelling in a way.
I know I was joking about it, but I am curious about what your thoughts are and like how the mechanism of this pre-crime does seem to like go after, like it was like very much like felt like these middle class, upper middle class crimes of passion. We're told that like people are predetermined, but like it was interesting to me. It felt like there was a lot of like blonde in this movie that I just like felt that popped out to me. Like a lot more white blonde people than I was like used to see. I'm like, what is this telling me? I was trying to like parse that out, but particularly with the crime, was it like a hypersensitivity on Spielberg's part? Like it had to have been thought through and discussed, but like it was very, even in that complex you were talking about, Prem, like I was like tracking for it. I was like, what are the economic dynamics? What are the racial dynamics?
It is interesting because it did, again, of course, came out, right after 9/11. And to your point, maybe it was just like this sense of like compensatory sensitivity to make sure it wasn't sort of taken in some other whipping up kind of fashion. On the other hand, there was that point earlier in the movie where when they're describing the sort of mechanisms of this, I think to Colin Farrell's character, but I'm not sure exactly. They were saying how I think he was asking, why doesn't it predict other crimes as easily or as often, like rape or assault, or other things of that matter, suicide, acts, I should say, not crimes. And I think one of them responded by saying that murder is a more severe violation of I think like metaphysical bonds between humans than those other things. And moreover, that precogs only see what you will do, not what you intend to do, which is to say that like they're so focused on premeditation, and then there's this sort of stated but not necessarily explicated idea that murder, or attempted murder, I guess, is just a more severe sort of spiritual and in essence violation that a human could commit. And I don't know, I feel like that choice, I mean, A, I wonder what you guys think of that choice, and B, I wonder like how that then sort of like impacts what the movie, the plot, the writing, or the natural development of it then chooses to focus on in terms of the victims, the culprits, like this idea that like, there is a specific act that for whatever reason precogs are more predisposed to observe and warn about.
I just read it as a storytelling choice, as a plot choice, you just to kind of focus in on one specific type of crime. And I think to a lot of people would view murder, taking someone else's life, as the greatest possible crime against another person. So I think if just like weeding out all of the other potential crimes, that way, like the precogs aren't getting bogged down with like, oh, like someone shoplifting from the Dwayne Reed, and like we have to, here's a ball for it, that way it just felt like the simplest storytelling choice so that they could just focus in on one type of crime rather than having to like follow a bunch of different threads.
Yeah, I guess the reason I got fixated on it was because just thinking, when I do so much thinking about policing and surveillance, and obviously like racial surveillance, racial capitalism, it's like, it's just it almost feels like it was, to me, that was the most sci-fi part of it, was like that in this world, this is being, all of these resources and energy for society is being focused on like this like upper white echelon. Like I just didn't buy it in terms of like the worlds that we know. And so it just made me, there was something just like so strange about the politics of that. Like it felt very like almost like a bigger like something that I'm being told or force fed. Like it felt so, I don't know, it creeped me out, to be honest.
It is interesting because I feel like in terms of like any element of race, I think like I might just be forgetting, but I think like the main characters of color, or like that were most prominent, were one or two of the fellow cops.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, even in the housing complex, I wasn't sure if there were any people of color who were sort of being surveilled. But it was interesting, like given that we're not quite sure about the racial element of the movie, or if there was even any pre-planning on that, or if it was just sort of coincidental that they ended up having most of the characters be white. There was the sort of class element of like when that housing complex was being surveilled, like the extent to which like they felt so normal about it. Like there was that couple who was arguing and the spiders just kind of like go up, scan their eyes. They immediately continue arguing. The people having sex, they're like, like right now, like it's the way in which like they're expected to like just deal with this surveillance at whatever hour of the day. But again, to your point, like the one depiction of sort of outrage against the surveillance coming from the mother, I think in some ways, like at least that showed the range of which like humans can either like express some level of outrage in a futile manner, or because they come across that futility, like they just sort of come to accept it as like just a norm that they swallow for the purported benefits of it, like no murders, and all these other goodies that sort of just come with like this broader sort of embracing of the system, the cars running on time and not, bump into each other, the ads curating to you, like that's all part of this broader thing that they're, signing up for.
Yeah. I'm like, what is this itch I'm trying to scratch? I think it's also just knowing what a big film this was, knowing the time it was in. Yeah. There's like an erasure. There's just something that it feels like there's a bit of an erasure. Like it's almost like a propaganda. Like, I don't know. There's something propagandizing to me about like that we're being told this is how this technology is being used in this world, when we know when we're in the middle of watching, like right in the middle of surveillance being used to its utmost power, that like there's no brown bodies being surveilled. To me, there's like a dissonance between the real world and like what this huge Hollywood picture is showing us. And then like the like morality of it, that like, then it's like, well, do you have a choice or you don't have a choice? There's like a morality in crime that it's like these white people get to have, like that we're sort of like thinking about. And then, I don't know, just the juxtaposition of this happening to all these brown bodies at the time and us just almost like they're not even included in that like moral, like we're not even seeing them. It just, something about it is like creepy as fuck to me in its like political, how it plays out politically for just even the people viewing this in 2002.
I think that's an excellent point. I wonder if you consider the possibility. I don't know. Again, I'm fresh to this movie. I don't know much, context or much about Spielberg's, own politics for to be frank.
For sure, yeah.
Do you think that this might be some sort of attempt at for instance, the classic quote that of course is all the more relevant right now of first they came for so and so and then they came for this group and then that group and then that group. Do you consider the possibility that this was speaking to that class of citizen to say, or at least suggest, that the thing that you are witnessing right now out there, here as you're sitting in this theater, this could be you. Like this could be the sort of circumstances that you yourself find yourself in, and one that, whether it for a middle or upper middle class person, you could be falsely accused of something. If you're a middle to lower class person, you'll just be subject to this constant surveillance, if not falsely accused as well.
I think that's a good faith reading for sure.
No, 1000%. I think like it's just like the absence you're pointing to is like so particularly stark, actually. Like it is like, I think the feeling you're getting, I'm just like, this seems crazy. Like for this movie to come out at that time and to not address it at all feels like it's just so deeply intentional that like perhaps like there was that specific ethos. I don't know.
And to put it so far in the future, like that futurism of it, of like, this is what just the AI, like you're saying, like the AI, like putting together like how when we're supposed to be scared of AI because of this thing, so we don't look at the thing that's really happening. It kind of interesting to me that it's like we're addressing things happening today, but like in such a way that's not addressing it at all. And maybe I'm just having an emotional response too, because I just remember so clearly as a little girl, like for some reason, like the movie Ghost is popping out to me, and just like how the characters of color, particularly like the Puerto Rican characters in that, who I was like, that looks like my dad, and that's supposed to be like the really terrifying man, and just being so aware of like all of those tropes in the 90s and 2000. And then suddenly this movie, I was like, everyone's white and black. Like, where? What? This seems so surreal. Like, I guess maybe the robots killed everyone like already, and they only have to deal with like these crimes for like these folks. I don't know.
I would be of the opinion, or I would infer that it's not that deep in terms of like what Spielberg was thinking at the time. I don't think Spielberg was really considering race and class and economics.
Right. But I think that's the problem.
No, it 100% is the problem, especially in a movie that is like about policing and about surveillance.
No, I don't think he's thinking about it, but I think
he's not thinking about it at all.
I guess that's why I'm fascinated when we have these conversations, because I'm like, it reveals so much of the subtext, reveals so much more about like what's really like the politics in some way. I think gets so revealed in like what someone's not fucking thinking about.
Like, definitely. It would have been much more of a comprehensive story if everyone or if most of the people in like the tenement building had been, like people of color, clearly from like a lower socioeconomic background, and like what this system has meant to them in their lives.
Or even like who's you said he put together all that research and all that deck, and you're like, who are the people who are doing that research where no one was like, yeah, no, this is how they're going to use it. It's going to be against people of color for sure. Like, and they probably won't care about murder as much as they will about like how many people can we get away for, like, put away for all of these small crimes. It just, it's such a biased, and I think about the bias because that's what comes up so much in this surveillance policing conversations and like training robots. Who's training the robots? In some ways, it just made me think like, this whole film was a robot trained from a pretty white imagination of a certain class. Yeah.
I mean, in some respects, like that is just a critique, a retroactive critique of the techno-futurists of the time, which seemingly are not far ancestors from the ones of today.
Totally. Okay, I'm glad thank you for scratching that itch with me, but it was something that I was like, and I think it's part of my fascination with the movie too.
I mean, this movie gets at a lot of like very big ideas, which I really appreciate for something this like pop and entertaining. I do want to like drill down on the free will versus determinism theme, because I feel like that is so key to this. And one that is, I mean, I know where I come down on it, but like the movie really does the legwork to make you, at least as the audience member, feel like, hey, maybe this is a decent system. The first crime that we witness in the opening sequence of the movie is basically Tom Cruise stopping a murder in real time. It's like we get up to the point where whatever the guy's name is, like, has the scissors raised above his wife's chest, is bringing them down. Tom Cruise runs in and stops him. So as the audience member, the movie is broadcasting to you like, hey, this thing works. Like, this thing actually stopped this woman from getting stabbed. You just watched it happen. But then we come to learn throughout the movie that actually, no, the system has always been flawed. The system has always had deviations from absolute truth with these minority reports that we learn about, where one of the precogs sees something different, and then the state just buries that information. Yeah, I mean, Prem, I'm interested because I know you read a lot of, like, I remember the last time I saw you were reading like a book about how like mushrooms connect all life, it was like a metaphysical book about mushrooms. So I would love to hear your take on, or what you thought of the whole free will versus determinism debate within this movie.
I think one thing that I appreciated was getting the dichotomy between Tom Cruise and Colin Farrell's characters, because initially when I was introduced to them, you have a certain presumption of both of them. Anderton, Tom Cruise's character, is just like this guy who's totally faithful to the system, a chief at it, an ace, he's the rock star. And Colin Farrell's character, like, what's his deal? Is earlier in the movie, are you thinking, is he setting him up? Is he maybe pulling some strings here? But seeing them both as towards the middle and end as both good faith people, but also people for whom one has a sort of learned skepticism by virtue of having a slightly different sort of upbringing to where he came, versus Chief Anderton, the man who has a very understandable driving passion for why the system has to work, and then consequently a learned faithfulness in it, especially, given the fact that in his eyes, he's doing the Lord's work. He's, or the priest's work, I guess, in taking care of business. And I think seeing both of them unravel in their own ways, Tom Cruise obviously in a much more deeper way because he was so subsumed in it, I think was a beautiful display of this idea of some form or level of will in which that whether you're skeptical of a system and are operating within it or are subject to it, like there is some sort of path where you aren't one of those things anymore. Of course, for Colin Farrell's character, he ended up dying for it, but Tom Cruise's character I think is a great example of some sort of icon of what many of us see in today's society or could be, which is to say, like, having earnestness and sincerity and really thinking you're doing something good, and being confronted with the idea that maybe it isn't, or that maybe there is something there that you are a part of, whether you're a cog of it or what you think of as a leader of it, and being presented with the opportunity to have a choice. And I think, like, it's hard to fully unravel the debate between free will and determinism, generally, no less than a 2-hour movie. But I think, like, you get nuggets out of that debate in all sorts of contexts and displays of it. And I think, like, this movie, I think one thing I appreciate was just this idea that, like, it's giving us two icons that we can either relate to or aspire to and understand the positionality they're in and can see that, like, people don't have to be subject solely to the conditions or atmosphere around them in a way that leads them to inevitably do a certain thing. Because I think so often one thing that we rub up against when we're talking about capitalism or talking about just this ether of coercion is how difficult it is to remove yourself from it, to rub up against it, to fight back against it, to do anything other than to be a part of it. And I think these two characters and them together and understanding both how they got to where they were and then where they went after that, I think is just like a beautiful display that, that inevitability doesn't have to be inevitable.
It's also interesting that Colin Farrell is like the Fed in this movie, and he's the ostensible good guy coming in and actually doing good oversight for the first time. Yeah, I loved everything you just said. It's a brilliant construction. I mean, obviously, I think with the three of us, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think we would come down on the side of a crime isn't committed until a crime isn't committed, and a person should not be prosecuted for a given crime. Like, this is essentially pushing the idea of thought crime to its most logical or science fiction-y conclusion of, if you do commit a thought crime, you are going to go away as if you had committed a real crime. And I know me personally, I'm like, I don't want to live in that world. And I don't think anyone would want to live in that world, nor should we. And then the movie's construction of basically having the precog's vision be the catalyst that actually drives Tom Cruise towards his either inevitable or likely destination of finding himself in this room with this man, Harlan Crow.
Not Harlan Crow.
Or not Harlan Crow. Wait, who's Harlan Crow? Harlan Crow is the billionaire.
Yes, Clarence Thomas's best friend.
Clarence Thomas's best friend.
That would be a very different movie if Tom Cruise is in a room with Harlan Crow.
Look, we don't know it wasn't that Harlan Crow, okay? I don't know if we got the guy. I don't know if we got the guy's first name. His name was Crow because he says
He says Leo Crow? Leo
Crow, yeah. Goodbye, Crow.
Anyways, leading up to that, I mean, it's just it's such good science fiction writing of would this have happened if the precog didn't have the vision to begin 1000%.
with? So, like, in and of itself, the precog is creating the conditions for a crime to be committed, and so it sort of like unravels the entire purpose of this whole precog and pre-crime division. And you get to watch basically a person pushed by the forces outside of their own control towards this destination that they will arrive at, but still being given choices the entire way. And then ultimately finding out that he actually didn't even intentionally murder Crow and Crow pulls the gun into himself and makes him pull the trigger. So the muddiness of it, I think, does a really good job of dispelling the idea that pre-crime is like a good thing that we should be aspiring to.
It's interesting too, because I know that is based on a short story, which I haven't read, so I'm not sure like to what extent they resolved or poked at some of these potential spaces of muddiness I guess, as you say. But like, for instance, you know, is fate or like a following prediction impacted by a previous prediction and the response to a previous prediction? Like, when there is a clairvoyant vision of this act happening, and the prompt, of course, is for the cops to respond to it. Does that then impact or create the birth of other predictions that wouldn't have been there had that other prediction not be responded to? You know, like this idea of a domino or butterfly effect, like one thing happening totally impacting the course of human history because that thing did or didn't happen, you know? Yeah, I think you're right. That it was just a good sci-fi movie in that way of just presenting so many little like sub questions about what does or doesn't happen based on what we do or don't respond to.
And what I love about it too is because, like, to your point that you're just saying about the going back and forth, we don't ever, it's not like they're ever like, we're going to give you a time travel, we're going to actually give you an alternate reality. Like, those are kind of all presupposed in these sweet, amazing, most oppressed in the film souls, who are the ones who are psychic, right? But it's still, I mean, it's still thought for them, right? Like, if you're like, a psychic vision is still thought. It's still not something that has been materially acted upon. And thus, in terms of the material world, like, I think it does say a lot about, like, you know, just his simple thing of like, yeah, but I caught the ball before it went. We don't even know if there would have been, we don't know anything other than, okay, so you caught the ball, but we don't even know if it would have hit that person. Like, I don't know. To me, the most, like, the heart of sort of this sort of philosophical conversation was the Samantha Morton character, the Agatha, right?
Agatha,
the female of the three, who they're like, she's the soul of these three. Like,
she's the linchpin.
We don't even know why the twins are there. Poor twins. But like, she played it so. I mean, I love her as an actor, and just the pain of that existence for her was like the core. Like, none of the questioning mattered. She has a line where she's just like, I'm so fucking sick of the future.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was kind of like the heart of this philosophical question. In some ways, it's like, who fucking cares? She brought us down to the real material world of like, what matters is, and I guess this kind of goes back to the AI thing we were talking about. It doesn't matter if we have all these thought experiments about where AI is going to like become so smart and take over and all this stuff. You're like, what we do know materially is like, who fucking cares? What world are they going to be running if we're destroying it right now in pursuit of them? So to me, that was kind of the like message, was like, there is a real material world here and now. And then there's like the consequences of just getting so caught up in this ideology, and how that ideology, like how that philosophy can be used to oppress police and oppress. And like, that was kind of the point of Minority Report, was like, yeah, this is just like a cat mouse run around. You can have this philosophical chase, but like, we are using it to enforce harm and oppress.
I think that's great. I think that's so good. That scene was so, like, it stuck with me just because of like the basic matter that she was just sort of lifted from this stupor of being half awake, half not awake constantly. She's freezing, she's shivering, she's, you know, completely not fully aware what's going on. You know, she says, is this now? And he's just peppering her with questions. Is this now? Yeah. That moment, just like, I think another aspect, just like, I think gave us more character into Tom Cruise's character of someone who, while he's trying to unravel who he is, he's also just not necessarily being like the most, and understandably given his Russian circumstances, but not being the most gentle or patient person. Like, especially given what you're saying, just like how piercing that Agatha's character was, just like as someone you're watching. And for him to just be like, I need to know this, I need to know that. And she, for still being able to deliver such a profound, I'm just sick of the future. Yeah. Such a great scene.
And I think there's like, when there's I've been just thinking about that. And as I'm Prem, I'm about to give birth like any day now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So like now the conversations go from like, you're like, how am I going to keep this thing alive to like, well, am I going to give them a phone? Like, just like all the different things of like, how do I even think about tech and like psyche? And I just think it comes down to, it's just everything comes down to presence, and it's not that fucking complicated. And so when she says, is this now? And thinking about movements and organizing and just like how, because I can get wrapped up in that, like the fear of the AI, all the shit. And it's like, well, what the fuck is this now? Like when Marx talks about material reality, it's like actual fucking material reality. There isn't, I mean, I'd be curious as thoughts on all this. It would probably be like, shut the fuck up. Like,
well, there's also like an extreme amount of dehumanization that is happening in this movie between both the suspects that they are chasing and the precogs themselves, who are fucking humans, who are like, who are people that they're just like, no, we keep them in this vat of milk and that's where they live. And like, they're cool with it. Don't worry. Like we asked them, they said it's totally cool.
There's a point they say like, it's easier to think of them as less human.
Yes. And like they've clearly had to either do mental gymnastics to get themselves there, or you can see it as like another logical conclusion of where we're even at today, in the way that like, especially in this country, in the US, we dehumanize the people that we disagree with politically. Yeah. We dehumanize, undocumented immigrants. We dehumanize, queer people. We dehumanize, like brown people in the Middle East because like they're over there and who cares, and they're whatever. And so it's okay for them to be bombed constantly. You could see how in 2054 we could get to this world where it's like, no, these three things in this vat of milk, like they're not even people. Don't even worry about them. Oh, these people who were
stolen from their parents, right?
Stolen from their parents,
lower class and like on drugs, presumed. Like, horrible.
I mean, it's like the factories right now. Like the jokes about like, oh, like with all these tariffs, like we're gonna have all those Chinese factory jobs, and like good luck with like you sloppy Americans doing it. It's like, I mean, like the converse of that is like, these are very difficult and squalid conditions that like we just like accept that like thousands of kids in Bangladesh and China just like do these jobs.
Right.
And like the backhand of that is like, oh, haha, like imagine like these slobbish Americans doing it, because there's this presumption that's like so basic, but like to your point, like just so like a baked in dehumanization that's just like, oh yeah, like of course, that's a job for them. Like you're not going to get an American to do that. And it's like, well, I mean, what do you do with that?
I don't know. Just tell more stories, share more stories of one another. I think like it's speaking back to like what you were saying about like what got you into journalism. I think just getting, I know this is kind of like a deviation, but yeah, like just learning more about the conditions and the lives of these other people and like actually seeing them as human. I don't know. That's something I want to see more of moving forward, and in whatever this American project is just a bringing together rather than a pushing apart.
Well, and how much, just in the themes of this film, like how much dehumanization we justify because of our fear of something in the future, and how we don't want to deal with what's actually here, present now, but because we're like, well, if I do that, then in the future I'm fucked, or in the future this is, so I validate like my distance, my not looking or whatever, because like, or because it's quote unquote predetermined and I can't control it. I can't do anything about it. It's too big. Capitalism's too big for me. What am I going to do about the people who make my phone? So I would rather not think about it, like, so my survival skill is dehumanization as opposed to finding the ability to hold both truths.
It is interesting because what you just said just reminded me of what you had said earlier about, sort of maybe not the distance between, but just the mindfulness of the future versus the now. Concerns about the future that we can fixate on or be pushed upon us, so we don't necessarily focus on all the heightened contradictions surrounding us now. And I think so much about how it's so easy for us to think, well, I can't do things about all this. So what am I supposed to do? You know, it's just so big. And that bigness is what often removes us from action in the now. And subsequently, because of that, again, totally understandable submission to the bigness of now, that now becomes so compoundingly big in the future because
right.
there's so many different things that all of us could be doing concurrently, not everything, but a thing.
Yeah.
That if we were all doing those things concurrently and, you know, giving each other a hand when we needed to, there wouldn't be as many things to grow to be big, if that makes sense.
Totally.
Definitely.
And so I think there is this sort of like bridge between that helps us understand or helps us, you know, embrace a better skepticism and sharper and more focused skepticism of future calamity or devastation by understanding that by opting into a thing now, we help lessen the possibility of that even bigger, more scarier future.
Yeah.
And that can be empowering rather than like it feels like an escape ramp or a ladder up.
Yeah.
From this pit of just feeling the bigness of now. Because it's totally understandable for people to have that impulse of, well, what am I supposed to do? But doing something is not just sort of a moral crutch that helps you feel a little better about the awfulness of now, but actually can be harm reduction for the future. But in fact, even just building something affirmatively good because one thing didn't get the chance to become what it might become.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's like that saying, when's the best time to plant a tree? Today.
Yeah. Well, even in the film, like their visions, I guess that's one thing we learn is they're like, if anything, it's like, yeah, no, I had that vision, but like twin over here saw it totally different. Oh, turns out there were lots of turns out this wasn't the definitive only. And when you expand or suddenly have a new perspective, while that might be true, there's so many ways to see things. And I know that's part of our project here with this podcast. And what Frank and I talk about all the time is like having this leftist lens is actually like, expanding the way to see this material reality in a way that is more empowering and hopeful than what previously was. And it doesn't distort or change the truths of things. It just means like, have you ever thought of looking at it from this angle? I
mean, one thing in this movie that got me a little hopeful and I would like to see in the future is the Fantasy Palace run by Dweezil Zappa.
Oh, hell yeah.
I'm fucking down for that shit. I am down. Look, I know that could be problematic. I know that could just be like escapism for people with like, I don't know, mental health issues or like substance issues. But you're telling me there's a place where I could go where I could just like order up anything and just experience that? Yeah, I'm gonna try that shit out at least once.
I do like that we were just introduced to that for like 4 minutes. Like that felt like another one of those like bouncy moments.
Yes.
Hello, this is happening. There's this eccentric guy. There's all this sex, drugs, and rock and roll happening, and then you're gone.
And such a great format because it did then make you look at like it was like we're so serious about this idea of like a thought crime. And then this moment comes in. He's like, "Don't shoot me for what I thought about my cousin." Like, and you're like, "Oh yeah, it's so silly." Like Tom Cruise running around like this is silly to a certain extent, and we are supposed to see that. Yeah, that the actors, all of the actors were really good, but particularly those side moments. I also loved the woman. What was her name? Who played Heinemann? Oh, Lois Smith, obviously. Lois Smith was so good.
Yeah, Poison Ivy vibes, yeah.
Just every choice being made from her as an actor I was just captured, brought in, so good.
Great performance in that scene. I loved the plants as security for her home. Like,
yeah.
like botanist bioweapons of some kind. I was like, okay, like, get it? Also, apparently, she did not tell Tom Cruise that she was going to kiss him on the lips during that scene. So that was like
I was wondering about that.
Wow.
Okay, that's good trivia because it felt like, whoa, what the heck? And I'm glad that like the what the heck thing seemed to have just been conveyed by his own reaction. Like, oh.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, just a genuine actor moment.
That's so fun.
God, like what I usually would not be like, yes, actors just kiss other actors on set, but
no, we're not advocating for that.
However, in terms
always
of
discuss it with your scene
instinct
partner.
as an actor, like as in terms of just like what it brought that scene.
The last thing I want to touch on before we go to the awards, unless you guys have anything else, but like there's also the aspect of this movie of, you know, cops are just going to be cops and abuse their power any chance that they get, and regardless of pre-crime or the idea of arresting people based on crimes that they haven't even committed. You also just have Tom Cruise as I don't know, he's a police officer, the pre-crime division, just even before he is on the lam, just like doing bad shit as a cop. And like when we first introduced him, he's a drug addict. So like there's like the substance abuse angle. When he goes to Tim Blake Nelson to find out about the missing files first, and Tim Blake Nelson's just like, you can't take that. And he's just like, I'm fucking taking it. I'm taking it, dude. So just like immediately we're like, oh, you're not following the rules. You're cutting the red tape whenever it doesn't suit you. And then as soon as we get the vision of him committing the crime, his immediate response is to just like turn off all the cameras, steal the ball, and go on the run. I was shocked. I'm like, dude, it is so easy to just be like, hey, actually, I had this weird moment with Agatha before where she jumped out of the pool and like tried to pull me in. So like maybe this has something to do with it. But his first instinct is like, nope, I am on the run now. I am no longer going to follow the rules that I espouse. I don't know. I just thought it was
everybody runs.
Yeah, they had said 2 or 3 times in the movie, everybody runs. And it's fun. I mean, the moment where he was taking the card from his colleague, what he said, like, is this the only bad thing that happens down here? Like the presumption that, like, yeah, like that's like the steady state. And I feel like that to me felt like a moment, like the entire first, like whatever, 30, 40 minutes of that unraveling just felt like you get like a truer sense of what committed him to that system, which was just the conviction of not just, you know, wanting to make sure that people like his son Sean weren't taken, but the idea that like if he did the good things, he could rectify the fact that he, you know, not that he should be blamed for his son being taken away from him, but like for him, like he internalized that as like this stain on him personally, and to rectify that, he could become the guy that does the good things. But given that conviction and attachment to his job was in some respects, like based, again, totally understandably, but like in this like egocentric kind of way, that conviction is so easy to then like be removed from, like when there's this sense that you're now the target, or there's some way in which you're implicated. Like the entire chase where they like just destroyed 3 families' homes and like almost lit one of them on fire. And like there was 2 people like building a roof that like just fell from the top of the roof, like conceivably could have died.
Yeah.
I think like that was just like a snapping moment where like for him, it's like all the convictions of seeking to achieve more sort of social harmony and to keep people safe at sort of like a baseline level. Those just are removed from his priority because like the conviction that led him to that job wasn't necessarily grounded in this like broader abstract philosophical goal, which again, like I'm not saying like is normal, but like I think like that gets to this broader idea of like, you know, yeah, like how police systems work.
Well, there was a line that I feel like ties in everything you're saying that I wrote down because I was just like, it pinged for me, but it was the guy who ends up, I can't remember who says it actually. I should have written this down. Maybe you'll remember. But a belief born of pain, not politics. And I thought that kind of speaks to what you're saying of like why I actually wrote it. I was like, this is why politics is really important, and why tying our pain, our rage, our grief to a politic is crucial, because which is community, ultimately, like a community politic, and something that you can set into the material course of the world. Otherwise, I think it does become like what you're saying. Like, dude had a belief that was born of pain and not politic. And so his politic is just like, how do I fucking feel about this right now?
Exactly.
And he has so much power that it becomes really horrific because he can just do whatever he feels with it.
1000%.
And then the ego and the sense of power and authority that he has accrued over the years of doing this work. Like maybe he got into it for the altruistic, I want to prevent the thing that happened to my son from happening to others. But when we meet him in the beginning of the movie, he's sliding on those little gloves. He's putting on a show. He is tossing those screens around. He is just like hit the Beethoven, baby.
There was a
Daddy's
exactly.
Daddy's going to work right now. Like
not the slide of the glove. Yeah. And then like all the characters love him, right? And then we don't see them until the very end, the two characters of color, and then like they come back and they're like, oh, anything for my guy. That's really interesting. I mean, maybe this is not important, but I do need help because is this just one of those muddy loopholes that doesn't tie? But like the whole thing culminates right in the bad dude being like, so I hired someone to do this crime, so that the Vision would have it, but then they don't do the crime. I step in to do the crime. Why did he just hire the guy to do the crime? Was it that he just wanted to? Like, why did he just wanted to be the one to shoot the woman?
No, it was so he could get away with it.
But why wouldn't he have gotten away with, wouldn't he have gotten away with it because they thought the guy shot her anyway?
Well, I guess, for one, if the guy gets caught.
Oh, I thought the guy did get caught, or did that guy never get caught?
The first guy, the guy that he hired gets caught.
So if he's going to get caught, why wouldn't he have shot her? Oh, he gets caught prior to shooting. Okay, now I get it.
Yeah. So he hired
pre-crimed. Got it.
Von Sydow.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's on me. That makes sense. Because I was like, why wouldn't he just pay for? I was like, this guy's so sick. He's like, I got to do it.
No, it's the one way he could get away with it.
I mean, he still could have hired a second guy to do it. Like he literally didn't have to have blood on his hands. That actually probably would have solved the whole thing.
That's true. In conclusion, just hire two.
There's some aspects of the pre-crime future determinism thing that kind of fall apart upon if you dig into them too much. Like Max von Sydow hiring the dude who is Crow to pretend to be the guy that stole Anderton's son, but then that house somehow still making it into the precog's vision, even though it was like a plot by Sydow.
Right. It's that's premeditated.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a red ball.
Yep, that's that's a red ball. Yeah, so there's like stuff like that. Also, like, why didn't anyone get rid of Anderton's security clearance from his eyeballs? Like, why was his wife able to just carry around his eyeballs for the rest of the movie and get into all the parts of the police station?
The eyeballs were so great. Oh, and then we didn't even talk about the surgeon.
Oh my gosh.
Incredible.
Which I guess was another, that was
Peter
some
Stormare.
of the, oh my God. That was like one of the best scenes. I was like, this is fantastic. He made choices to be just like under the curtain for no fucking reason.
Yeah.
That were just so logic. You're like, he sold every moment of it. It was the snot. It was just, that was like a perfect scene. This movie also, is this not like a version of Face Off in some ways too?
Yeah. I mean, I guess in that like
I felt like the driving, like there was something very Face Off to me. Like they were very much telling a similar tale because they both have the son that's like killed and captured, and it's like there's like a very like father son thing. There's a lot of there's the police stuff. There's a lot of duality.
Yeah, there's like, being on the run. Yeah, like the falsely accused on the run part of Face Off as well. And
everyone makes fun of Face Off and like kind of the like, we loved it. We covered it on the pod. But like the like heightened part of it. And I gotta say, like in that scene with the surgeon, I'm like, this could be in Face Off, y'all. Like this.
Sure.
Spielberg.
All right. I think we got through pretty much everything. So Prem, this is the part of the episode where we like to give awards to each movie that we're covering. We have 3 of them. Our first award is the Best Politics Award. So this goes to the character with the best politics in the movie. It doesn't, and sometimes it's tough. Sometimes there's not a lot of options. Sometimes we have to give this award to a child or an animal because the adults lack any sort of decent politics. Is there anybody?
I'm leaning toward Agatha. I don't know that Agatha has articulated or figured out their politics yet, but I do feel like they lean toward the politic of the present moment, and just also they're the most oppressed.
That's true.
She did have this. I mean, she insisted he has a choice. He has a choice.
Yes,
she
that's
insisted
true.
upon
Yes.
the idea that you don't have to choose violence. You don't have to, choose the worst impulse that you might have, because she's so used to seeing the worst impulse used. And I think that's a powerful impulse that, of course, was imposed upon her. I know we didn't discuss this more, but I am interested, like when you mentioned how Colin Farrell's character is essentially the Fed, and it seems like seemingly a benevolent version of it.
Yeah.
We never really got to know much about the Attorney General and like what his politics were, because it's like in this society that seems so signed up for this 6-year now program preventing murder. Like, how did this Attorney General have the stones to investigate, and like how did they come to power? We didn't really get much of that. Like, evidently there was some wave of reformist or skeptic, techno-skeptic part of this nation's politics that allowed someone to be the Attorney General and to have the authority to make the cops like actually kind of cower a little bit and be like, yeah, all right, fine, you can stick around. So potentially this unseen Attorney General might have some pretty decent politics. I'm not sure.
Yeah, or Colin Farrell's character, just like as like a DOJ functionary or whatever his
Right.
role is there. I mean, yeah, I'm hesitant to give it to the Fed, but he is kind of challenging this pretty fucked up this thought crime system. It's the movie does a really good job as painting him as like a red herring, as being like, oh, he's going to be the bad guy and he's going to be the one that's fucking over Tom Cruise, but ends up being like probably one of the most altruistic people, or at least moral people in the movie.
He picked up on the cover up. He's like, this is wrong. We're getting the wrong guy.
His death is great.
Oh man, that was so tough.
Cause I mean, I should have seen it coming, but like obviously, but he's like, oh, you don't hear any alarms?
Yeah, no, when you hear
That's 'cause
that,
the
it's like, oh
system's off.
boy. Yeah.
You're dead, bro. So good.
Yeah, and he keeps being like, I'm trying to find the flaw in the system. Like, you're telling me it's a perfect system. I don't believe that. I got to find so between Agatha and Colin Farrell's Fed, I mean, yeah, my instinct says give it to Agatha, because I just feel like Colin Farrell, I don't know. I'm like, it feels very liberal. Like, I feel like he's more liberal and she's more left.
It's fair.
He is a Fed after all. Like,
but maybe we're applauding the best form of a liberalism. I don't know.
Yeah, it's possible.
It is also, I mean, it's just like, it's tough because they're just such like, the formation of their politics are just so drastically different, where Agatha again was just like imposed upon her, but she took it in stride.
Yeah,
Colin's journey was interesting. From being
he's
a cop
still probably doing very bad things, as we have mentioned. Like just in our observation of like, it's not like he's stopping the spider eyeballs or any of the stuff.
Right.
He's still participating in a system that you're like, yeah, this still seems like a really scary state of being for everyone else.
Yeah,
and he's just making sure. Like, I don't think it works. Let's make sure we're putting
That's fair.
So I don't know.
No, we don't have to. We can give it to Agatha.
All right. So you guessed it, Prem. The next award goes to the worst politics. Worst character, the worst politics in this movie. Probably a more
crowded field. Yeah. Probably Max von Sydow's character, Lamar Burgess. Also great character names.
Great names.
Lamar Burgess is a murderer. Did come up with the pre-crime division, which, as we've discussed, is not good. Yeah, I don't think it gets worse than that.
I feel like he probably takes the cake.
Bad politics. Yep.
Bad praxis. He did not do his reading.
Yeah, created an oppressive thought surveillance system that puts away people who don't even commit crimes, and actually
with Hindeman. We should give her some credit.
Yes, I was going to say she's
true.
Yeah, and
can't take away. I mean, she gets away with her whimsy a little more with her plans.
Yeah, but she didn't seem that remorseful, which paired so well with whimsy. Honestly, I loved that.
Yeah, not at all. She's nuts.
By a close second.
All right, Lamar Burgess. And then our last award is Better Supporting Character. Goes to your favorite supporting character that this movie should actually be about. So this could just be like a spinoff with anyone from the movie. I mean, obviously going to go with Peter Stormare, the loopy plastic surgeon slash black market eyeball guy. Get all of that. Give me from the moment that Tom Cruise put him in jail to how we find him back in this moment now.
Yeah, and he kind of alludes to like his experience in jail and how that may have formed like his surgery now, but then we never really get. I was like, are you going to tell us more? And he just really like leaves it there. So there's a lot to be wanted from him.
Yeah, I'd love a sort of like Joker style spinoff of his. I also feel like the one cop, I think it was the black cop who was like, yeah, I mean, he's kind of like I think he was referring to Colin Farrell's points about, you know, them being priests rather than cops, and he was like just like nodding his head. Tom Cruise like, what are you nodding your head? You don't even know what he's saying. He's like, no, I mean, come on, Chief, you know, he's kind of right. We're more like priests than cops sometimes. And then Tom Cruise like, just get back to work. I thought he was kind of funny.
And he still shows up for Tom Cruise at the end, saves the day.
It's true. But maybe he can have like a decent spinoff too. Not as good as the other one, but it would be like sort of like follow-up spinoff that like the franchise like, oh, let's keep juicing this, you know? People liked him. He can have his own thing too.
I'm going to go with the twins. Like they give the flash at the end and I'm like, who the fuck are these children? And they're like, those are the twins. I was like, those are the twins. Who are these twins? Like, you know, like we get like they really give us absolutely nothing about like we have to like guess a lot about them. And we get so much more about Agatha, and they're just so thrown under the bus as like, yeah, the twins can't do anything without her, which I loved because they're like, of course it's, I think Heineman's like, it's the female, of course. It's the woman. But then why do we, I guess just because twins and psychic stuff were just like meant, you need the twins in the psychic realm.
I mean, I am interested, like, what are the precogs life now that they are out of the vat of milk, you know?
Totally.
I'd love to see that, because it looks like they got a really nice cabin situation that they've landed at. Like
healthy? They look very healthy.
They're reading their books. I would love to just see them, like, go to the local bar. You know, like what is their social life like? How are they integrating into society?
I would imagine they wouldn't want to all live together after being stuck in the milk together.
I was so intrigued by the final scene being these guys in like a nice looking cottage, just like reading, and it's like, okay, that's kind of nice. I guess like maybe a reference to that one line where there was that tour with those young people in DC, and the guy was describing the precogs, and one kid's like, oh, can we see them? He's like, no, we got to keep them in peaceful seclusion so they, you know, don't get distracted. And I guess this was a nod to, you know, actually some nice peaceful seclusion. But to what end they want to be secluded? I'm not
exactly
quite sure.
My guess is probably they're like, I want to be non-secluded. I want to party, like to bring.
I think so. Yeah.
I've been in milk forever.
That's true.
Ready to get out there and drink some milk. Well, Prem, this was such a joy. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're very busy, so really love the chance to get to chop it up with you about some less serious stuff. Although still some pretty serious themes. And that you picked a film you'd never seen. I love that.
No, yeah. It was good homework for me to just get me a good excuse to finally watch it. So thank you guys for giving me a chance to do it.
Last thing we like to do with our guests is ask, is there anything that you do in your everyday life where you get the chance to practice your political values, however you want to identify those? And that could be anything from like a daily practice you engage in to an organization you work with.
I guess maybe a slightly two-tiered answer. I love to meditate. I think it's great. It's fun. It gives you a chance to both, you know, just take a pause, take a beat, but also just center yourself in the now, which, as Rivka says, is so important because it's so easy in these unprecedented times to, you know, just get in the whirlwind and stay in the whirlwind. I think also, accordingly, concurrently, spending time with friends sounds like such a, you know, silly thing that someone might say on a first date, but I find that it becomes sometimes very difficult to do so because of the jobs we have, because of the busyness that other people in their lives have. And I think so much of the best parts of my life, from growing up to being in college, and then afterwards, has just been because of and due to the people around me. Both, you know, things I get to soak up from them, but just the chance to have what I think our politics is geared towards, which is giving people a dignified life where they can live and laugh and love and not feel that that has to be something that's done sparingly. I think getting the chance to make sure that you're doing that and knowing that on one hand, it's fuel for you and it's just nice, but also on the other hand, by you doing that, you're definitionally sharing it with someone else. That's an expression of the kinds of politics that we're aspiring towards. So I think, don't think of chit chat, don't think of hanging out with your friends as just a given or as a thing that's just some sort of aside you say on a first date as your hobby and you feel bad about it because it doesn't sound like an interesting hobby. It's perhaps the most interesting thing and the most awesome thing that you get to do. And so
I love that.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
Make hanging out a radical act again.
Heck yeah, baby.
Beautiful.
Prem, this was wonderful. Thank you again for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
To get ourselves a treat.
Thank you all so much for listening. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok. And if you want to support the show and get access to our Patreon episodes, the link is in the episode description in your podcast player or at mvcpod.com.
Also a reminder that we donate our ad space. So if you're part of a leftist or progressive organization and you want to run an ad on the show, you can email us at moviesvscapitalism@gmail.com.
For next week, we will be watching the 2006 Coen Brothers film, Hail Caesar.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.